Whoops-a-daisy. Alright, the finals are starting on Lightshade. Clem versus HeRoMaRinE for the 39th Open Cup. In the bottom right is the blue Terran. He is Mal's HeRoMaRinE. In the top left is the red Terran. We have Team Liquid's Clem. So, the last time I was able to cast these guys in a best of 5 finals, Clem didn't quite pull through. Game 5, it was kind of a hectic one base versus one base scenario, and maybe if Clem had responded as quickly, as appropriately as HeRoMaRinE, maybe he could have done it. Oh my god. What? How are we not good at this? The players go. No one was leaving for the French guys. Yeah. We left for Wardy, but not for O Gaming. You know, we realized it too late. That's what happened. We're already banned from France. Alright, so one base to one base. This is one of the shorter maps, and we're talking about a mirror matchup, Terran versus Terran. We're kind of talking purely about the rush distance for a little while in the early game. How fast can your Reaper and your Hellion get across compared to your Tech Lab and Cyclone finishing? Can be a big deal. So, Submarine, you'll also see some people go for 1-Rax expands, but it's honestly just very dangerous. People get away with it, and, you know, you can go for the double Reaper opener right into Hellion production and kind of keep up with your opponent. But anyways, you see a lot more people go for factory expands, and I guess Lightshade's going to have a similar playstyle as well. Starport coming down a lot faster for Clem. Genius's command center is slower? Why is that happening? Hold on. What did I miss? Oh, 3 Reapers to 2. Okay. Alright, I was like, something's missing. Hold on here. Yeah. So, pretty heavily on the starport, and for an army that's not actually doing anything right now for HeRoMaRinE. Now, Clem with a medevac technically is going to have so much more potential. Like, the micro picking up, landing, as well as the healing of the Reapers is going to be so much more effective. It looks like HeRoMaRinE, I thought he was going to be a little late to the push. He looks like he's hitting just before the medevac, so... Okay. So he's supposed to win this. But I was worried he wouldn't. Very quick reaction from Clem to slap down the grenades. He's going to go back to the medevac, which heals the weak Reaper. And that worked out okay. Pretty wonderfully there for Clem, and now he can initiate the counterattack, which HeRoMaRinE now has to worry about, seeing that there was a medevac healing beam, but he's already got a Cyclone on the way, and is going into a Raven. A little bit of a trade out while the medevac's still trying to catch up, but HeRoMaRinE will inevitably lose every unit here. Clem has actually brought forward everything, including the tank that he was able to bring, while microing the Hellions until their very last dying breath. That is 1 hit point and 2 hit points, by the way. Just by the way. Medevac is going to barely be saved. The tank unloads, almost takes out the Cyclone, and HeRoMaRinE is going to be forced to pull back and repair that, as that is one of his only remaining army units. Clem is almost doubling the army supply, which, you know, against a tank isn't actually that big of a deal. Oh, doesn't do the Medevac. As an SCV pool can be surprisingly effective, but you just need something else. You need something that won't be killed as it's target fired. Auto turret comes down to try and maybe get the tank. There it goes, target fire there. Cyclone number 2 comes out, jumps right on top of that tank to help take care of it, and the first Cyclone is saved by the SCV repair. A little bit scary. Clem wanted to take advantage of it, and he's still trying to. He actually went back and repaired his Hellion, at least one of them. One Cyclone finds one Cyclone, which finds another Cyclone. It's Clem getting 1 for 2 there. That's a good trade. And all the while, producing back at home, maybe going for a faster 3rd CC. He is indeed getting his own Raven. TvT is a goddamn beautiful matchup when you are not playing it. Fairly quick second gas here on the natural. HeRoMaRinE not usually a mech player. I don't think it's mech. I think they are just getting prepared to slap down a bunch of barracks and then produce double medevacs, but... there you go. Barracks and barracks. Okay, there we go. Usually if you go in a mech, it's like both gases in the natural at the same time, or pretty close to it, so... It looked fast, but it wasn't really. You gotta produce... Raven, well, the Ravens produce, you gotta produce tanks, medevacs, stim, and then double upgrades as well, so... It's true, later on the Terrans might not need all 6 or all 8 gases, but... It's not as much as people believe. People are like, you don't need to say Marines. Well, kind of. To be honest, Marines are pretty good. Fishing the TvT when you're up to, you know, 2 or 3 factories. You do need it. 3rd CC already on the way for Clem. Being slapped down. Or his HeRoMaRinE's only just finishing as an orbital. He's also caught very awkwardly here. Cyclone lock-on is going to be disengaged. Oh, the Raven actually had vision past the grass. Thank you, high ground vision. HeRoMaRinE's double Raven is going for some double harassment, but I think it would have been much better off at home trying to help. I think actually this could be a killing blow. HeRoMaRinE's about to lose both of his tanks. Actually buying a little bit of time by letting the army chase him is maybe something here for HeRoMaRinE. Also trying to grab one of the Ravens. He barely doesn't. HeRoMaRinE's Raven still alive and still doing damage. I'm sorry, that was 3 Ravens. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, that's a lot of auto turrets. Oh my god, the command center. Oh my god, the command center barely saved by the SCVs. And the Vikings do take out the last Raven. HeRoMaRinE's 3 Ravens coming on home, injured but alive. Could have a couple of auto turrets to throw down and really help out with the engagement. In fact, I think with the Vikings landing and the auto turrets, he will be able to clean this up. The Marines are going to shark around, look for the focus fire, however, and that's something that HeRoMaRinE has to be careful about. Auto turrets do come down. One Raven loses its life, but the Vikings land on the other side, and every single tank goes pop. And HeRoMaRinE will again hold, losing a lot of time on the natural and not having his 3rd down location quite yet. So ultimately, Clem probably going to come out ahead in the economy, as he's only down a couple of SCVs and he's already mining. But he is coming out behind on those upgrades. 1-1 severely delayed compared to HeRoMaRinE. And also Clem lost his 2 Ravens, where HeRoMaRinE still has his alive with Viking control. So really, even though that looked very, very, very scary for HeRoMaRinE, I mean, insanely scary when he lost his army in the middle of the map, he's actually coming out ahead on some of the more important units. What Clem has is mobility. He's going to have more Marines to work with, so greater concaves, greater pounce potential, and, you know, obviously drops if the Vikings are out of position. But when it comes to an actual push, just like I'm receiving you, Clem's not going to do so hot. HeRoMaRinE is right now for getting combat shields, though, and that could be a big problem. Tanks on siege, as Clem doesn't know yet. So there it goes to the tower, plus the units just got revealed. Interference matrix on one of the forward tanks doesn't actually make room for any of these tanks to get the kill, so more of like a reaction. HeRoMaRiNE's not really going to overstay his welcome. I think the problem is that on Lightshade, because there's so much concave potential, Clem's overwhelming Marine number actually was getting kind of scary. The concave there with the combat shields finishing up as well, I think was actually pretty scary. I think it was a good pullback. If it's more in a choke, like if this was the choke to the third, I mean, I think HeRoMaRiNE's still staying put, but... Speaking of the choke in the middle being cleared up at least a little bit, I think it's so that the tanks will go down single file. They'll block out the Marines. They'll get picked off one at a time. As the aggressor, it makes sense to clear that up. Scan reveals how well situated HeRoMaRiNE's army is. Sees the number of Vikings as well and knows that pushing into it's going to be tough to do. And while the combat shieldless Marines make it look very tempting, it's tantalizing to push into that. I don't think you really want to. Upgrades have also taken a turn for the worse for HeRoMaRiNE, who had such a substantial upgrade lead, has now lost it as Clem starts his 2-2 much faster. I don't know what that was, but it died. All the Ravens died, alright. So, no more Raven advantage for HeRoMaRiNE. They get very difficult to use in this portion of the game, and we won't see them being used or made again so much later on, but there's no doubt that used correctly, they're always helpful. Nice little snipe there on the tank. Only gets one single shot to the Marines, and with combat shields, they're A-okay. As much as getting hit by a tank would make you. I thought these were drops. They are not. Just checking around for 4th command center. It's actually not going to go down over there. It's going to go into the bottom middle left. Is this going to be standard? I don't know. I guess defensively with tanks, this choke works out well. But if you try and push into someone who's situated here, obviously goes in the opposite direction. That's a mirror matchup for you. 2-2, still a ways away from finishing as HeRoMaRiNE moves in. Clem is paying attention to go for the concave. And this actually looks a bit better for Clem positionally. HeRoMaRiNE, though, with these number of tanks and a lot of depth to his engagement, those tanks are pretty far back, means that he will also hold the middle. And with the Viking superiority, he'll actually keep vision on his opponent, which Clem has to use scans for. Second factory already done for HeRoMaRiNE, but not quite producing off of them. He's actually going to go and grab some Liberators real quick. He wants to take advantage of the current Viking lead he had. I think had now? Past tense. Faster siege up for Clem. Over here, a single drop's going to find a planetary. Maybe could have tried canceling the 5th, but with the army so close, yeah, it's going to get cleaned up. Oh, HeRoMaRiNE's army still not in hold position. He wanted to move the Vikings and move the entire army, perhaps. HeRoMaRiNE also is not on a 4th CC, like, at all. So as Clem gets his 5th up, that looks pretty bad for HeRoMaRiNE. He went up into 7 bullets? Oh, I thought it was 8. That's, yeah, well, 4th CC will eventually come down for HeRoMaRiNE, but if he can't make any more headway, it's going to be really problematic. At least the banks will be. Viking lead did go back into HeRoMaRiNE's favor. He decided to rally him forward. So 7-4. Liberator's going to siege up and not before the focus fired. So the Liberators did not end up panning out so much for HeRoMaRiNE in terms of pushing Clem back. They've taken out a couple of the tanks, though, which maybe opens up an opportunity. Oh, not quite. I guess HeRoMaRiNE didn't really see what was behind all of that, so there could have been a tank up on that high ground that really could have devastated him. Both at very equal supplies, currently at equal upgrades as well. Both of their vehicle weapons finishing up exactly the same time. And HeRoMaRiNE's going to be one to pull the trigger, but Clem is very quick to respond. He's going to maybe lose the left side, but the right side still has plenty of tanks to go for. And in fact, it's a bit of a wash. Clem does come down a little bit more in supply. I think the Vikings taking on some medevacs while that was going on, but Clem is still holding on to this position. It's a delicate one, though, when he's now realized that maybe I also have to get into some tanks. Sorry, Vikings, as his tank number grows a little bit weaker. And he does not win that trade out. It is looking a little scary. HeRoMaRiNE 20 supply above, goes in for a push, but a huge concave on the high ground, but it's 3 tanks firing away, and that is going to be enough. Also, very few to, that was 0 medevacs, I believe. Definitely one of the things I was underplaying with the Vikings taking out the medevacs. So I was like, well, yeah, I guess they died. And because Clem hasn't been rebuilding them, he's been trying to get to his own Viking count. The medevacs not being available made that a one-sided fight for sure. Clem's 5th base is going to be bopped, so while HeRoMaRiNE still is down a base, he at least won't be down by 2. He tries to save some SCVs while he can, as well as get the repair going, and he might be able to save it. Nah, I don't think so. It's going to go crashing down. If only SCVs could repair inside of a command center. If they can repair inside a medevac, can't they repair inside a command center? Should make sense. It should. Clem is going to try and get another angle, I think. but his transition to Vikings was not very. It wasn't very clean. And by the time he finally gets to a Viking lead, because there's no Vikings in HeRoMaRinE anymore, it seems like it might be too late. Tanks aren't quite in position to save that Liberator. Doesn't punish the Marines jumping forward enough. Clem no longer mining from a 4th base, also about to lose it. He wants to repair it, but he needs to take care of the Viking Liberator, which he does, the lone Viking, the last Viking alive. Clem, his starport has actually been his biggest problem right now. He can't produce enough medevacs or enough Vikings to really make either type of army strong enough. The last couple of repairs do help take out a lot of those Marines, and the Liberator seems to take care of one of the tanks, but Clem is a bit desperate. He's going to move forward in the middle of the map as the Marines of HeRoMaRinE were a little bit late to the party, but again, no medevacs. So even if he had this +3 attack, I don't think it's quite as good. HeRoMaRinE is able to push through a choke at even supply. It took him about 4 minutes, but he finally did it. Their economies are right now even as both of their main bases have been lifted over, but Clem is now down 70 supply. And despite what looked to be a very promising game for him, so many extra bases and an even supply actually turned sour. HeRoMaRinE still very good when it comes to the long, drawn-out, patient games. We move on to Submarine, the other short map. The top left is the blue Terran. He is
Subscription
HeRoMaRinE.
received. Apparently you are doing something right, Captain.
In the bottom right, sending out an SCV, he is Clem. Thank you, Zaborek, for the 15-month resub. So you watch this excellent TvT. So one SCV in a TvT usually sends out a buddy, but no buddy. So just a single Reaper proxy. So because people are talking about it, I feel like I should just clear it on air. I made a joke about the command center not being able to be repaired from the inside. With a medevac, you can repair if you have an SCV with a Hellion and you put auto repair on the SCV. If you pick up the SCV and the Hellion is damaged, if they're both inside the medevac, the SCV will repair it. Or a tank, or Cyclone, whatever. Apparently, the SCVs, instead of a command center, can also repair each other, but they can't repair the command center. Nor can the SCV inside the medevac repair the medevac. And I say that's BS, because where do most things you repair most things inside. Okay? Like, there's some things you have to do outside, sure. But there's definitely some things you have to do inside. So why is their magic drill not effective here? Why? Of course, I said Reaper. It is a Marauder. Derp. And it's going to be a Marauder opener with Marauder slow. And, what is... I guess he's going to help with the high ground. I'm like, you're not going to build anything. What are you doing? Factory goes back at home. HeRoMaRinE is not going to SEV Scout. It's Submarine. So a Factory expand does make the most sense, but I would say on Submarine, against a guy who just lost to you, I would say even an SEV Scout with this would make, like, the most sense, but it's not very ideal. The idea is that if you're going to be building off of a faster factory and a barracks all the time, not building reactors or tech labs, you should be fine against the proxies, the Double Reaper or the Marauder. In execution, it can be a little bit different. You got 2 Marauders, a single SCV to help out, and the Reapers cannot escape from Marauder slow. Unless they do a perfect grenade, which won't happen. Hellenes also can't really help out here. You just can't kill these units very fast. An SCV pool is not bad against them, though, as Reapers or, sorry, Marauders don't have that great DPS, but a canceled command center is already a pretty nice start. Third Marauder joins in, and HeRoMaRinE is in a bit of trouble. It's gonna add on a Widow Mine and pull more SCVs, but this is in some serious damage. Another Helen gets taken off. 2 Marauders still pretty healthy in context of the units firing at them right now. 6, 7 SCVs, a Marine to help out with more DPS. Can take on an 8th SCV, go for a 9th, maybe a 10th. Then the 10th when he wants the weak one. Not gonna find it. Alright, so it's 9 SCVs killed and a canceled command center. That was a very effective opener. If HeRoMaRinE had scouted or had just default placed his command center on the high ground, maybe it's not canceled and he still has a pretty good situation going for him. But with both of those combined, Clem should feel very happy with that opener. Banshee coming out here for Clem could be a bit of a surprise. No cloak, but still, if HeRoMaRinE's going to be thinking about doing an attack, which it certainly looks like he's going to do, he went up to a starport after canceling the command center, he's upgraded his Cyclones, he's certainly getting a lot of them. His Cyclones might not be back at home, so while the Banshee would take a while to kill a bunch of SCVs, with only one of them being available, it could still turn into a bit of a wonky base trade. If the Banshee is used defensively, well then she's absolutely useless because there's no cloak, so she can't even escape the Cyclone lock-on. Clem, however, has also gone for a decent number of Cyclones, 2 of them to start things off. HeRoMaRinE will get the high ground, but he won't have double... Oh, okay, well, there we go. This went really good for HeRoMaRinE. So if Clem's second Cyclone had also locked on, he might have been able to get it before it... Yeah, the Medivac could pick it up, but... Now, with the Medivac's ability to cancel the lock-on, I mean, Clem, more Cyclones might not cut it. He's got a tank on the high ground, though. And there's the Banshee. Like I said, like, it might catch... No, it didn't. It didn't, though. It didn't, though. Even pre-scanning. We get 5 SCVs. It actually isn't that terrible, usually. But he's also taking a lot of damage back at home. Does finally push this back. Manages to avoid the Widow Mine. Oh, until then. The RCDs go down. Bit of a scary push there, but Clem having the tank locked and secured in his main base, I think was a big help there. If it had been on the low ground going, oh, look, I'm a tank, it's dropped on easy peasy, and then it really snowballs from that point. But with the tank and a couple more units built up before Clem actually engaged, HeRoMaRinE did not get the snowball and is now just trying to find little bits and pieces while he can, because ultimately he still is down in workers. A Raven's gonna try and save its life by going back to the auto turret. At least trade out with the Cyclone, but it doesn't even do that. So one Raven lost, another double Cyclone drop? Okay. Another Raven has been built here for HeRoMaRinE. He will go for more harassment in the same location while Cyclones distract and bring the Cyclone down to the low grounds. The Raven, ideally, is going to swoop in. Oh, no, I'm in the spaceship. Damn it. My mouse hit my bungee. Medevac does go down. Nice scan there for Clem to ensure that victory. But the Raven in the main does what I was pointing out, as I was talking about. Cyclone is no longer there to save the SCVs, so 3 of them go down, and the Raven does live this time. Triple Cyclone waiting for a counter Viking or Raven? Or just rallied here because he's going to do a push. Okay, just rallied here because he's going to do a push. That's a very odd army. The Cyclones, they're such glass cannons that they're not really the scary... They don't set in, right? Like tanks, if they're entrenched, they're entrenched. But the Cyclones, not so much. The Cyclones have a lot of burst power, that's for sure, and so that barracks is almost already dead. But you gotta bring a tank forward to really start, I think, causing fear. Clem's stim is already done working on the combat shields. HeRoMaRinE is still on just a 1-1-1 production. A third CC is on the way. I guess he will be going into bio, but he is going to be very late to the important upgrades. Now Cyclone's just positioned to find anything that goes a little bit forward to get the scouting. He's in a Viking or a Raven or a Medevac forward. It's going to get the lock on. Yep, look at that. Scan to reveal just that it was Cyclone, so he jumps on top of that while he can. HeRoMaRinE's going to have a tough time recovering from this. I mean, he didn't ever fully recover from the Marauder attack, even though he made it look kind of scary for a little while. And then his Cyclone gamma didn't really work out as much as he was hoping. Kind of at all. So now he's behind in stim, combat shields 1-1, barracks production. The supplies might not look totally terrible right now, but they will be very terrible in about a minute. Unless Clem loves the attack. And with the interference matrix, this could be it. Just enough Marines to take out those tanks fast enough. The third tank behind, actually. Ooh, getting a couple more shots than it should. Raven being used for auditor harassment is not quite the same. Not an even trade there for HeRoMaRinE, who's going to be stuck on 2 bases for a while longer. As his orbital finishes, he's going to be contained, so not much even more to do about that. And he's going to just tap out. GG. Not going to try and play this one out for any longer. Why haven't Terran just made droids yet? I mean, they're pretty advanced. And they have all these, like, Protoss probes to, like, look at. How have they not made droids? Game number 3, as we're all tied up. Going to move on to Death Aura. In the bottom right is the blue Terran. He is HeRoMaRinE. And in the top left, as the red Terran, he is Clem. Thank you very much. 47ness for the 1,000 bits. Hey. Hey, girl, hey. Why can't the Colossus just duct tape an observer to a side of its head? That's a very good question. Well, I guess it would make it visible. Because the observer would be covered with duct tape. Remember in BSGU when Saul vented the entire engineering team? That's why SCVs refuse to work inside BCs. That makes sense. As to why battle cruisers don't just have a fleet of SCVs repairing them. At all times. Protoss are pretty dumb. I mean... they don't have doors. That's on them. Sir, we have one fatal flaw. Every time we build a base, if any lings get in, we have no reinforcements. Well, don't let them in. Well, sir, our units have to move sometimes. Can't we just make a door? No, you cannot. It's impossible. It's literally impossible. But the Terrans can just live in supply depots. Do you want to be like a Terran? Do ya? You want to be like those pansy Terrans? I don't think so. That's what they're telling the Zealot. Alright? Because Protoss are very, like, hyper-masculine. And they can't show weakness. And they can't cry and they can't hug each other. Anyways. Factory expand from here, Marine. It's actually got a lot of gas still being mined, so maybe not a factory expand? At least starport. Clem goes for a next expand and gets a very safe bunker. His scout revealed the at least one base build. With the second supply depot already being put down. It is going to be a command center after factory, but yeah, you should have 1 and 2, not 2 and 3. So that's still a lot of gas. So a very quick follow-up into a starport, maybe quicker follow-up into like a Raven, maybe towards the Raven and a tank. No, I'm gonna see. Y'all are missing Wardy again? Really? Doesn't look like it. Don't think we are. Anyway, so yeah, it's not. It just seems like a lot of extra gas, yeah. Maybe it transitions into the faster. Ah, but he's supply blocked. Command center's not done. It's fine. And a much faster third gas as well. I mean, it's on par with Clem's, but okay. All right, just looking at what the differences are. Slight differences. So for tank, protecting both natural and main a little bit. I think he realizes the dangers of that though, so he pulls it back. He doesn't know what HeRoMaRine's doing. He didn't see the Reaper Hellion push at all, so he's got to figure that it wasn't much committal to those early game units. There are 2 Reapers and a Hellion, but not 3 Reapers and 2 Hellions. HeRoMaRiNE has gone into a medevac, which Clem is trying to account for by his current positioning. A bunker in the natural at least deter something being raced in there. Won't stop it entirely. Speaking of getting into a main base, the Reaper gets in here. Goes for an SCV kill, wants a second one, but the medevac drop also going ahead, going right past the tank and right into the natural. I guess he saw the fence and was like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna fly there. Ah! Almost got a third SCV. SCV is saved by the gas. That SCV not so much. Takes a shot for the Widowmine though, and the Raven helps clear everything up. 2 Reapers in a main did delay the 3rd command center. Hello? Reapers being awfully annoying. There we go. Thanks, tank. Tanks! Ha! A little bit of a medevac drop just to do something. So why not? You got the medevac available. No Vikings flying over here to take care of it, but with the tanks positioned as they are, doesn't seem like much else is going to happen. HeRoMaRinE gets a little bit of a boost by having his 3rd command center on location, but Clem's is just straight up much faster. HeRoMaRinE actually moving out with a push. Already has 2 tanks. I don't think he stopped off at any Cyclones whatsoever. Yeah. Where usually a Cyclone would be kind of a safe maneuver, and it actually can be very useful offensively, as we saw in the last couple of games. If you can't get into tanks without fearing repercussions, then they're going to be stronger for that push. Finding the medevac's a nice start, but not if he actually gets his army caught off guard, which is exactly what's happening. The auto turret wall comes down as well, blocks them out from even trying to race back home. And the tanks from the bottom take care of Clem's army. Clem is down to a Raven and 2 tanks and only a handful of Marines. He tries to sit down his 3rd command center on location. I'm not sure it's going to actually happen. Auto turret from both sides. Tanks getting the siege up though as Clem target fires down here. Marines tanks. Has to retarget on top of the Marines. Is going to end up cleaning everything up. Nice hold there. Seemed like it wasn't going to be the biggest problem because HeRoMaRinE does have such a long distance to reinforce and his energy was getting low on his Ravens and blah blah blah. But you know, you never know. Sometimes those positions, you think you break them, suddenly they don't. Suddenly they really get problematic. And even if they had delayed the command center for a little while longer, it would have been nice for HeRoMaRinE. So his command center just now turning into an orbital, a little ahead on the SCVs. HeRoMaRinE, though, once again, like last game, very behind on the important upgrades for Marines. Stim just starting, so no combat shields, and 1-1 only on par with Clem. So just missing some big old Stim combat shield Marines, and that's usually pretty important. Gotta say, as we head into the mid-game for TvT. At one point, Clem's gonna realize he's got enough Marines to move out comfortably and go, oh my god, oh wait, he's gonna be doing it, look at that. At one point, at this point, Clem has realized he's got the push. He's gonna double drop into the main, tanks in position, Marines without combat shields are getting one shot, but doesn't matter. Vikings help take care of the medevacs, and then Land help take care of the tanks, but it was still a nasty amount of damage. Maybe not nasty enough. I mean, lost mining time, delayed barracks, a couple of trades on the tanks and the Vikings. Clem comes out ahead on the army supply, but still behind on those workers. Could have been worse. Could have been worse. Very fast sensor tower for a blue Terran. HeRoMaRinE wants to know what's up, and that makes sense. Since his stim is so late, he knows that mobility's not on his side. Since his combat shields are so late, he knows that even if he could catch up, he would lose the fight. And also Clem, just as a person, as a player, he's not only in this game in a better position to push into, to move/push into HeRoMaRinE. He's also just a very fast and very aggressive Terran, so makes sense that HeRoMaRiNE's a little more defensive. Not taking any huge risks like, I don't know, picking up one medevac full of units. Taking his tanks and saying F it and going to Doom Drop. Yeah, not gonna happen. So it's HeRoMaRinE just defends. He's eventually gonna get to his own combat shields and should keep up with 2-2. I think his army just finished. So, you know, in about 30 seconds here, it's not gonna be a problem. It's as if it was never a problem at all, since he dealt with the initial push so well. Or drop. A couple Marines scout out the push. HeRoMaRiNE's gonna know if it attacks from the right side, but it is a little weak to vision on the left. unsieging his tanks to get ready to actually go and meet the army. Is a bold move with combat shield still not quite done, but with it literally having like 15 seconds, I think he's alright. And Clem isn't even really pushing. He cleans up the scouting marines, he sends out his own scouting marines, and actually turns on home. Which is a little surprising. So HeRoMaRinE is going to be able to get to the middle of the map. I suppose his 3 ravens are still very fearsome, and Clem is probably going to remember that. Keep that in mind. Doesn't want to siege up somewhere and say, okay, I've got you, and then have like 7 of his tanks in the Fierce Matrix. Doesn't even have 7 tanks, so that would be devastating. Well, 1, but then loses a raven for it, so not the best. And then, ooh, the tanks on the high ground, not the high ground, but just up above. Still being in range of those marines didn't make that tank snipe very well worth it either, and it's a little bit awkward for HeRoMaRinE. I think with the ravens, he did have an opportunity, and with his upgrades all being even, there was something to be done, but it was just a little bit too awkward. So now it's HeRoMaRinE starting to pull back. Both their 4th command centers are finishing up and turning into planetaries. Another sensor tower for HeRoMaRinE. This Clem is like, F that, I don't need it. I'm gonna attack, that's my scouting. Picks up what looked to be a doom drop, but then was scanned immediately, so it's like, you know what, never mind. Just kidding, don't worry about it. Couple liberators on the way. Look like they might be just for some harassment, since HeRoMaRinE still has the Viking lead. This engagement could be awkward, but the tanks of HeRoMaRinE a little farther back. Well, now they're close enough. Plus an anti-armor missile, and ooh, that Dorito dust made it a lot easier for him. Interference matrix on one of the back tanks actually made it so these marines were able to heal through the single tank fire, take down that tank as well, and continue forward. I mean, that was a... I could see both sides to it, you know? Clem saw a very clumped up army and his tanks looked to be sieging faster, but 2 of them were sieged actually on the backside, getting just barely enough range to shoot at those marines. And then Clem was like, I guess I'm living longer than I thought it would, but Dorito does kind of change that pretty quickly. So Clem takes overall a bad fight. He's now down by about 15 army supply, and that's not unrecoverable in TvT at all, but he is losing a lot of ground, a lot of momentum. And that lack of sensor tower actually might really hurt now, but he's going to try and take another engagement, takes one of the tanks down, but loses most of his marines, and Clem suddenly goes from being down 15 army supply to being down 50 army supply. And I'm not even sure where his army supply is. I found it, doesn't look very impressive. HeRoMaRinE just taking the better fights, really. Yeah, the Raven included in that fight was really big deal. The Dorito dust plus the interference matrix on a second tank. If there were 2 tanks firing when HeRoMaRinE is in that choke, you know, it could have been a more even trade, which means it doesn't quite snowball like it did, but yeah, that is true. I'll recognize that. It also just feels like HeRoMaRinE's capable of taking better fights. He can kind of size up the quality of his Marines a little bit better than Clem. It feels like Clem's a little too, in this matchup, still a little too trigger happy. Still a little too like, oh, I think I can do this, and then my micro will carry me through. When I don't think it's as involved as it is in some of the other matchups. You know, if Clem sizes up a Ling Baneling army, he'll split and concave and focus fire, or like a Protoss army, he'll target fire and pull his Marines back from his Marauders and all the good stuff. And I feel like with TvT, it really is about that instant flash. It's like a half a second, I will win this. And the considerations, of course, are upgrades, which are even. So if the upgrades are even, the considerations are medevacs. Are they healing? Or are they not? Do I have any? And then, is my concave as good? Are all my Marines firing? And you have like literally half a second to decide that. And even when you realize, oh, I misjudged, it can take a little while for you to realize you misjudged. So, I don't know. I mean, I hesitate to say that TvT is like a quicker engagement, so that's why maybe sometimes Clem, maybe he just needs more experience sizing armies up, but I feel like it's a very, very, very top level thing. You know, it's not Clem is bad, not at all, but HeRoMaRinE just seems to be able to size it up a little bit better, a little more accurately, I guess. Maybe that's like its accuracy is a problem right now, whereas Clem's accuracy and sizing up engaged with the other matchup seems to be very on point. It's like maybe still a little off in TvT. I don't know. That's just a you know, very basic way of explaining why maybe sometimes Clem isn't winning these engagements. Other times have to, you know, other ways of explaining it does come down to, like, not accounting for a Raven, kind of easy to forget, or not accounting for the 2 tanks because you didn't scan ahead, so suddenly you're having less Marines than you thought you did. It's all that as well, but it seems to be a bit of a weakness of Clem in general, which is why I'm focusing on it. Yes, HeRoMaRiNE's fantastic at TvT, but Clem has even acknowledged himself, granted a couple weeks ago, but he's also talked about just being a little bit weak in TvT. And that's clearly not just a, because I lose to stupid shit. No. He's actually losing in some pretty even battles. In the top right of Oxide, we have HeRoMaRiNE. Bottom left, it is Clem. HeRoMaRiNE, been liking the double gas openers. Feels like more than Clem has. Clem is gonna go for a factory opener, but with a very obvious difference. No second gas. Wait, what? Yeah. Huh, interesting. I gotta admit, I don't see this build often or at all, or if I've seen it, I haven't really noticed it, because I might be talking about HeRoMaRiNE and go back and be like, oh, this looks totally legit, that's fine. No, it was a factory before Command Center, but with no second gas. It is, like, only officially, it's only technically a factory before Command Center. Interesting. So a little bit more on the delay at the Command Center, which if your opponent's going to go for a double gas is, like, totally fine. You still get the faster Command Center. But I guess it's going to give you a faster factory, so you have less to worry about for the big bops of Reaper Hellion. He's going to go ahead and swap it off. I mean, his gas is not exactly impressive, so it's not like he could have added a Cyclone or hell, even a Widowmine. A Widowmine would have delayed his starport, so... Alright, makes sense. I get it. I get the build. I understand. I do feel like TvT is less micro-intensive. Like, obviously there is micro, but I think it's a little more... It's going to be very confusing, but I think it's more of like a macro-micro. You know, like there's a little more zooming out to be had when you engage with each other in TvT. Whereas for the micro and the other races, it really is like, I'm going to zoom in like a hawk on sniping Banelings or sniping an Immortal or splitting against the Disruptor or whatever. Whereas TvT, it is more like if you could, you would want to expand to the zoom out that observers can do. To really get the whole picture, which is why scans happen so often in TvT. Not something as casters really highlight a whole lot. You know, we'll talk about how you don't need scans, you have Vikings, and that's, you know, pretty basic. But one thing, if you play TvT, you'll feel out very quickly that you need a lot of scans towards the mid-game. Not just to know where the army is, but also the depth of their army. I think it's actually some, like Diamond player Terrans, I think, actually have big troubles with that concept. But anyways, the build continues. Clem is going up to 8 Hellions, a Liberator on the way, and it's almost like, it kind of looks like he's playing a TvZ, with the amount of Hellions he's getting, I should say. The Raven, obviously, doesn't really happen so often in TvZ. But that should be a big surprise. So HeRoMaRiNE doesn't know about this. He has no idea what Clem did. No SCV scout whatsoever. And it looks like the Hellions are not going to reveal themselves to the Reapers. So Reapers come in, get a couple of cheeky SCV kills. What does HeRoMaRiNE have defending against 8 Hellions? A tank on the high ground and Marines and a Cyclone. That's actually not bad at all. This doesn't get more complicated than just Hellions running in the middle of the map. I guess one tank won't kill the Hellions very quickly, so the SCVs are going to get taken down. Cyclone, perhaps most importantly, got taken down, so this Liberator in the main is doing more damage than he would want, but not actually too much. Just getting 5 SCVs? Well, actually, that's pretty nice. No, wait, that's pretty nice. It would have been nicer if HeRoMaRiNE had known about this, though. If he knows about this, he pulls everything up to the high ground, SCVs included. Cyclone deals with the Liberator very, very easily, and he loses basically nothing but mining time. Now, Clem can at least say, I got a 10 worker lead from this. downside for Clem when doing a build like this is that you don't have much usable army if HeRoMaRinE does have a push. You know, you're talking about very few important units. We're still talking about mostly the Hellions in this overall army supply. And Oxide, I think it's one of the larger maps of the new map pool. 36 a second, so yeah, slightly faster than like Romanticide. Double Raven. Huh. What's this gonna do? Auto turret, maybe a tank on the high ground? Oh, he could like interfere. No, wait, no, there's not enough space to do that. I was thinking interference mage and then Cyclone, but I don't think it would work. Maybe catch anything that's gonna come across this way, like Raven or Medevac would fly this way. Double scan. Was that a double scan from HeRoMaRinE? I think that was. Clem did not see the army move out, and this is what I was talking about. There's not a lot available for Clem that's really a really good army. It's not terrible, you know, even without the 10 supply of Hellions here, he's still got a decent army supply, but I don't think he can really grab the command center as fast as he was hoping. Double Ravens into the main as the Cyclone comes back alongside the Reaper. So mining time once again lost for the Terran, sorry. But Clem takes the advantage on the tank count, at least temporarily. Wins that war. SCVs are going down, and oh shit! Ah, fuck! SCVs are going down to, I think, a Raven. But it didn't matter. Even with Clem losing SCVs, looks like HeRoMaRinE decided he couldn't win. So GG, that was a little more abrupt than I was thinking it would be. But there you go. Are we gonna go to an ace match? Gonna go to game number 5. The last map will be Pillars of Gold. So one of the old maps to finish it off. This has been one of the longer open cups. I didn't even feel like we were waiting for that long, though. It's weird. Sometimes we'll see like a, you know, one half of the bracket way far behind, and we'll be waiting a while, but there really wasn't a whole lot of downtime. So just some long games. And a entire best of 5 for the finals, which I think last week was also a 3-0. Yeah, it was 3-0 Showtime, 3-0 Bly. So I guess that helps. In the bottom left of Pillars of Gold, it is HeRoMaRinE. Top right is the Red Terran, it is Liquid Clem. What happened in that last game? Honestly, I'm not sure. I got a little too caught up with the wrong things, I guess. So, by the time I was like really looking at the overall picture, HeRoMaRinE tapped out, and I was like, ah, what? Shit. I was just figuring out the puzzle pieces, and then someone threw a cat on my puzzle, and I was like, oh, okay. So I think HeRoMaRinE figured that if he couldn't break Clem, he had taken too much damage, and I was just about to go check if he had a third CC, And that's, I think, what happened is that he didn't have a third CC. So HeRoMaRinE, when he was like, okay, I'm not actually breaking Clem, he has a third CC, I'm not going to get any more damage done, I'm just going to tap out. That makes total sense. I just didn't get to HeRoMaRinE's side of the map because I was looking at what the hell killed a couple of SCVs. And HeRoMaRinE tapped out pretty quickly. That said, I'm actually not even 100% sure if HeRoMaRinE did or did not have a third CC. If he didn't, totally agree. If he did, maybe it could have been played out a little while longer. So you guys can't even see Apollo. So SCV Scout from HeRoMaRinE, despite opening up on the 2 gases, maybe thinking back to the Marauder game and being like, I don't want that again. Clem did that kind of unique opener with the factory, then immediately command center. You know, 8 Hellions. That was very interesting. Again, if I think it's scouted, if HeRoMaRinE had sent his 2 Reapers in to see that there were so many Hellions, I think that he doesn't take much damage at all, and it looks like a pretty bad opener. Because while maybe at the time the Hellions are contributing to the army supply and overall supply, I think, you know, eventually 8 Hellions are kind of useless. But HeRoMaRinE didn't scout it. So Clem got a little bit of a good start there. A great start. That contributed to HeRoMaRinE having to tap out when he did. And once again, Clem's going to be opening up with Hellions. Now, question is it actually going to be 8 Hellions again? Or is this going to be the 4 Hellions? Or is it 3 or 5? We're going to have an odd number here. Oh, he's going to do the thing! I love this build. I stole this build from Clem when I first saw it like 2 months ago. So you build Hellions, you get Marauders with slow, you get a medevac, and then you can dump the Marauders on top of a tank or on top of a Cyclone so it can't maneuver. It usually is going to be a Cyclone. Again, kind of talking about this on the 3rd game, was it? Where if you are positive you don't need a Cyclone, you don't necessarily want to get one, tanks are going to be better on. As the game goes on, tanks are going to be better. But if you want to be aggressive, or if you think you are going to be receiving some aggression, Cyclones are very, 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 very helpful. So yeah, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a Cyclone that the Marauder's going to drop on, or close to. Marauder slow its butt down, save the medevac, save Cheerleader, save the world. And then the Hellions are, by the way, ripping and tearing through your Marines, Reapers, and SCVs. Because at this point, Terrans are mostly relying on 1 or 2 big units, Cyclone, Tank, or Raven, and then a bunch of tiny units that aren't really that helpful. So here we go! Here we go! Marauders try to jump on top of the Cyclone, but the repair? No, it's not even a repair. This didn't actually kill it that fast. SCVs are going to finally go down, and the Marines also going to start to go down, but the tank on the high ground is going to live. I think a little more ideal for Clem would have been dropping behind and then grabbing the tank with a bit of concave or something like that, since the Marauders can take a few tank shots to the face. But HeRoMaRinE with the very, very quick pullback was able to provide a blocker, siege up his tank in a more secure location, and that Cyclone lasted a lot longer than I think he would have really wanted. It actually looked like it was being repaired. I thought it was going to die so much quicker, and then did not. But nope, just a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff defending from HeRoMaRinE, all choked up, and then while Clem had a lot of stuff, it was a lot of stuff that wasn't firing too powerfully. 2 Marauders doing a decent job, and the Hellions were like, we're helping. Against the box Cyclone, they don't help that much. So he grabs a couple of workers, he evens up the worker counts, and overall is still not that far behind. In fact, I mean, there's actually no metric of which he is behind. Check out the units. We're talking about a second tank from HeRoMaRinE. 2 Ravens for a piece. 2 Ravens for both of them. HeRoMaRinE gonna go into a 3rd. Clem's gonna have a faster 3rd command center though, and go into Vikings faster. No, Sloan's are pretty even. I mean, at the end of the day, he traded out his Marauders and his medevac for couple SCVs, more than a couple Marines, and a Cyclone, while keeping his Hellions alive. And again, they might not help out, so it's like a little like, it's not really an army, but okay. Yeah, and that way it does sound pretty good, doesn't it? Yeah. Third CC only just now starting for HeRoMaRinE. You know, it feels like a very dangerous position. A couple of auto turrets. Ooh, very late pull away, and then he accidentally pulled them into the auto turrets because HeRoMaRinE placed them very cleverly. That was an amazing trade for the auto turrets. 10 SCVs go down. Now, if both Ravens die, I think it's a little bit more question mark. If one Raven survives, I still think it's pretty good for HeRoMaRinE. Actually, you know what? I don't know. Because the third CC is so late for HeRoMaRinE, right? It's like, maybe if both Ravens die, HeRoMaRinE would actually be still in a little bit of trouble. Which, both Ravens are going to die. Now the question, I guess, is can HeRoMaRinE delay his opponent's third? Seems very likely, considering Clem's army is nowhere near defending it. Seems pretty likely. So third CC is going to have to be lifted. Oh, he just mule dropped. Oh, painful. Vikings want to get that last Raven. Not quite going to grab it. And the tanks off to the left are going to be moved away. Because they cannot enter into the line of fire. They just be demolished. Raven does go down. And, he's going to go for it. Auto turrets leading the charge. More Vikings coming forward. And Clem is going to maybe get the cleanup. He's got so many Vikings to land. But the tanks of HeRoMaRinE doing a fantastic job. Nope. Concave is still good enough. Even the Hellions coming forward to help clear that up. Got a little bit scary there for a second. But one very healthy tank. 3 okay health Vikings. And a line of ants coming through Clem's side of the map. He wants to get some revenge. He wants to also delay his opponent's base, especially since he's killed all the Ravens, so he no longer has to worry about that. Even having a Raven of his own still alive and well, and maybe, just maybe, could have had the Viking advantage. He did for a very temporary amount of time. It's literally gone now. Hellions were thinking about dodging into the natural, which would have been fantastic. HeRoMaRinE gets angry at one of his SCVs. Okay. Alright, so Clem, I mean, his counter doesn't really get much done, but it does force HeRoMaRinE to position defensively. And again, Clem's going to have the faster combat shields this time. So HeRoMaRinE just needs to start up his combat shields. There he goes. Hellions do get to the left side of the third. Grab maybe. Nope, 5 SCVs is it. Almost got 7, but they were more and more useless, so. Throw them away for 5 SCVs, not bad. Clem is still behind 3 overall workers, though, never really recovering from the 10 workers he lost to the auto turrets. Despite having the slightly faster third CC, it was delayed, and yeah, you get the picture. But Clem does have more army, and he has those combat shields. Not too impactful right now with only like 7 Marines available, but I think it could be. More important is going to be those Vikings, however, and interference to be used on the 1 Vikings to ensure that Clem wins the air war. HeRoMaRinE still takes care of the Liberator, so if it's going to be a problem, it's for future HeRoMaRinE to worry about. The Liberator is, again, being made, so it's a problem he'll have to worry about, for sure, but at least he bought himself some time. Combat Shields is finally going to finish up. HeRoMaRinE also has much faster 1-1, but I don't think he can take an engagement to really utilize that. He is getting pretty contained, I must say. Clem going to go for a very bold movement with his Marines. He really wants to use his micro to his best advantage, and maybe this time it's going to work out. 2 tanks go down, a third one a little bit weak and out of position to actually save the third CC. Center tower also going to be taken down. HeRoMaRiNE's a second tank ready to try and help out, but an interference matrix is prepared. It's going to go for it, and only 1 tank left over. Actually, never mind. HeRoMaRiNE is going to pull the SCVs in to try and break out, but can he actually do it? It's not looking too bad, to be honest. The Vikings of Clem still need to land, however, and SCVs are getting killed. He's not going to bother landing the Vikings. He's going to entirely disengage. HeRoMaRiNE with the SCV pool actually does hold, and only down 7 workers. It's not bad. Army supplies have evened up, and that was all before 1 when I kicked in for Clem, so he actually did end up using his advantage on those upgrades. I did not expect that. There was a 10-second difference of whether it was or wasn't. Sick. The game does not end. It looked very, very, very scary there. Clem had a good position. He had a decent number of tanks. His Viking control was really ideal. But with the SCVs coming in, Clem didn't really have enough Marines to make them useless. Well, a certain amount of Marines, like 20 I would say, 15 maybe, where SCVs just look useless. Like, how much are they really helping you? But I guess even at that number, it's still maybe 1 or 2 tank shots on them, as opposed to something more important. And it is the Marines dealing with them first and foremost, and not necessarily getting a concave on the reinforcing units. So SCV pool is just good enough. The Liberator's going to go for harassment since it was made. It's got to do something. Sensor towers for both players now up and running. Marines checking out the 4th base. Clem's much faster 4th base. It's not going to be scouted for a little while. But here, Marine is faster to the 2-2. And maybe he can get some movement of his own out in the map. Don't know what this is. This is awkward. Okay. Well, here Marine, I think, was trying to send out some spotters. Sends out more than just 1 Marine, though. Now gonna pull all of his units back home. Clem is once again in the driving seats. Got a little bit of a better army supply, but it's all about positioning in TvT. He's about to have worse upgrades, though, and that is a lot of Marines for HeRoMaRinE. I mean, Clem might be on HeRoMaRiNE's side of the map, engaging into him, but it's actually a bit of fake, false confidence, I feel. Like, Clem has so much army still back at home, so his army advantage isn't actually true. And the army he has, while it is decent, 4 tanks, if they're concaved on, with the number of Marines HeRoMaRinE had, it's questionable. So I like that disengage from Clem. He's going to reinforce with the rest of his units. He's got a nice safe planetary up on his 4th base alongside a sensor tower. HeRoMaRinE knows he's in trouble, but HeRoMaRinE has been in this position before. Like, something like very close to it. I think that was the 2nd game. He was down a base, it was even supply, and yet HeRoMaRinE took just slightly better engagements 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times until he eventually won. Can he do it again? Clem's going to stop him from trying, but those Marines in that choke are looking pretty bad. Clem, again, not taking the better TvT engagements. Does manage to recuperate, though. I mean, that was not great. And those Marines were all stacked up there, but he ends up winning a little bit more to the north. All of his tanks are still alive and well. And Clem still has the army supply lead. And he's also got now an equal upgrade. Which, again, was not the case when they actually engaged. So coincidental. HeRoMaRiNE's getting a little bit lucky on those engagement timings. That Clem is now giving up positioning. Uh-oh. I mean, it's going to take a while for these tanks to get on the planetary. And oh no, HeRoMaRinE not going to be fully sieged by the time that Clem jumps on top of them. Could have been a mistake from HeRoMaRinE. The Marines split, try and jump on top of the tanks, but there are so many tanks for HeRoMaRinE. There are 8 tanks, but a Liberator comes forward to help out. And that's going to be down to now 5 tanks. Only 3 of them on the front line anyways. HeRoMaRinE, I think it's just too late. He, like, kind of blitzed into this location, like, kind of, but not really enough, and Clem was able to respond with his superior army supply. Clem is going to take the 3-2 and win number 39 of the European Open Cup. HeRoMaRinE, sorry, buddy, you're going to have to stay at